I want you to turn to Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6. And we're going back this morning to where we were last Sunday, which is verse 6, which is in the middle of the prayer emphasis. The Sermon on the Mount, we're right in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. And of course, you don't have any right to hear half of a sermon or come into the middle of a sermon or hear a section of a sermon and say, oh, I didn't like that, until you heard the whole sermon, which means you'll never have probably the right to criticize most sermons because most of you don't hear all of it. That was a joke, folks. So you need to hear the whole sermon and think through what he's saying. And Jesus, of course, is giving a phenomenal sermon. And he starts with a premise. He's talking to his disciples in Matthew chapter 5, verse 1. And he's saying, hey, I want to tell you where we're going. I want to tell you where this has all headed. You've been experiencing the Old Testament. You know a lot about the law. You've been involved in ceremonies and circumstances and feast days and all of those sort of things. But hey, this whole thing is going to a whole new level. And I want you to get in on the whole new level. It's all going to happen, guys. That's why I'm here. So he brought his disciples into this. And as he was presenting this new level, he started with the premise of the Sermon on the Mount. Everything in the Sermon on the Mount has to be viewed through the perspective of this premise. You have to interpret everything that's going on. So if you don't understand the premise, hey, you won't get what he's saying. And what is the premise? It's the Beatitudes. And he starts right out. You're poor in spirit, meaning what? You're absolutely poverty-stricken. If I take a knife and slice you down the middle and go to the core of your insides, what makes you tick, what drives you, the center issue of your life, what do I find there? Absolutely nothing. You have no resource. You're empty. You weren't made that way. You're not that way because you sin. You're that way because God created you that way. And why would he create you that way? So if you would mourn, second beatitude, if you would mourn over your helplessness, open up in the middle of the helplessness, he would come in the wonder of himself and he would merge with you. And he brings up the subject of the kingdom as if this is what the kingdom is all about. In other words, the kingdom is not a location to go to. It's a relational idea. You and him in intimate relationship. And when you and him are in intimate relationship, you are the kingdom. The kingdom is not you. The kingdom is not him. The kingdom is us. You and him together. So in that intimacy, in that merger, and it's not he comes and he's beside you and helping you and aiding you when you need help. It's he's come inside of you to actually infiltrate the very mind and inner heart and inner emotions of your being so that you and him can operate as one, think as one, be as one. And you're not God. You're always helpless. Got that. But hey, he has come in the intimacy of his presence, and you and him have literally merged together. You don't know about him. You don't even just know him. It's somehow an intimacy of saturation and oneness that takes place within you. He calls that kingdom person. Now he says, I know you didn't get that, so he gives illustrations. And in chapter 5, he gives 6 illustrations. There's the old, which is, you shall not murder. There's this new level. We're not talking about the elimination of the action of murder. We're talking, he says, about the elimination of anger that makes you want to murder. The old timer said, not going to cheat on my wife. I want to take you to this new level where you see the opposite sex through the perspective of God's heart, which changes everything. And he goes on and gives 6 of these illustrations, which is a brand new level. Startling, off the wall. Who could believe it? Is that possible? No. Why? I'm helpless. I can't pull that off in a million years. Which proves his point. He's got to come and merge with me, or this will never be done. Now, when he gets done with that, he comes to chapter 6 and says, let's take this premise and let's bring it into religion. Everybody knows about religion. Oh, yeah, religion. It's boring. Why? You do all this stuff down there at that place called the church. And you do this stuff. What kind of stuff? Well, generosity. Yeah, you got to help people. Oh, brother. Okay, I will. And then there's this prayer thing, intimacy and communication with God. Yeah, you got to pray. How much should I pray? Well, 15 minutes, half hour. What's long enough? When is the best time to do it? 9 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon for the Jews. So what's the prayer thing? Then there's the spiritual discipline, in which he talks about fasting. But what would happen if this would go to a new level? Charitable deeds would be a whole brand new deal. Because you'd have the mind of Christ. You'd think like God thinks. You'd have his heart. And it wouldn't be a deed you did. It would be a sharing of a life that you are. Because it would be an intimacy with him in the merger. What would happen in prayer? And he applies it to prayer. Look at verse 5. When you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corners of the street, that they may be seen by men. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. But you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Now, we've talked last Sunday about verse 6. Want to talk about it again, only we want to focus in on this one phrase, who is in the secret place. Read it again. But you, when you pray, go into your room. When you have shut your door, pray to your Father, who is in the secret place. And your Father who sees in the secret place will reward you openly. Now, evidently, this secret place idea is really important to Jesus. And you can't criticize me for saying, hey, you just made that up, because in this verse, he brings the subject up twice. Do you see it? Pray to your Father who's in the secret place, and your Father who sees in the secret place. So he brings it up twice. But he doesn't just bring it up twice here. You'll notice in the charitable deeds in verse 4, he brings it up twice. That your charitable deeds may be done in secret, and your Father who sees in secret. So he's brought it twice he's mentioned it twice in the charitable deeds. He's mentioned it twice in the prayer. And when you get down to the fasting, look at verse 18. So that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but your Father who's in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret place will reward you openly. So every time he brings one of these subjects, charitable deeds, prayer, and fasting, he brings up this idea of secret place. Evidently, this really matters to him. Now, we discovered that secret, the word place is not really there, but the word secret is crypto, and the word secret is actually an adjective, which means it gives content to a noun, but not in this case. In this case, it doesn't give content to a noun. It is used as a noun itself. It's a spatial adjective in the Greek. And it's used as a noun itself, which is a person, place, or thing. So he's actually talking about a location. He's actually talking about the existence of a spot. He's actually talking about a space, a location, a place to go. Now, the language tells you that in verse 6. Look at it again. When you pray, go into your room. That's a place. Shut your door to the place. And your Father who's in the place, secret place. So see, the whole language of the passage indicates that there's a place to go to. And you say immediately, well, what's the address? I want to go there. Well, there is no address. Because it isn't a physical location. It's a spiritual reality. Which is a whole different plane of thinking. You get that? It's a whole different idea. So we don't have to be in a spot. We don't have to be in a certain place. He's not talking about going into the closet, shut the door. He's not discussing that. He's discussing a spiritual location, which is a mystical concept. Now, we've discussed this a little bit in the fact that there is a problem with the word secret. Because when you say secret to me, I think of something deceptive. I think of something, you're trying to hide something from somebody to deceive them, hypocritical, that kind of thing. But that's not the indication here. Secret probably isn't a good translation. Probably a better translation would be hidden. In other words, it's a place that you can't see with your eyes. You can't feel with your touch. It's not concrete. It's an abstract concept, which means there is this spiritual, mystical, hidden place, spot, position where you and God have literally come together in this merger, and in that merger you begin to experience him in that place. It's the connection that happens in the merger, and where he and you come together in oneness, that's the spot he's talking about. God dwells there. Now, you realize that the world has its own philosophy, its own logic. And when you go day after day, raised in our culture, you develop that logic. You say, oh, that's logical. Hey, boys will be boys. What's that all about? Well, we've watched you. And you all do the same thing. So obviously it's logical to think, see, that's world logic. But could I tell you, there is a divine logic. It's the way God thinks. And it apparently, what's reasonable to God is not reasonable in this world. And it's two different ways of thinking. And when you take what's logical to God and you bring it into the world, they look at you like, are you up a tree? What is your, wow. Because it doesn't make any sense. Now, I use that as a defense in preaching a lot, because people will go out and say, your sermon didn't make any sense. Well, divine logic. So, and it may not be true, but hey, divine logic, world logic, and they're not the same. You understand that. Let me give you an example. For instance, Jesus was talking to his disciples, and they were talking about where this whole thing was going and where he was going, and he began to talk to them about the cross. He was going to die on a cross. And he plain flat told them, hey, we're going to win the whole world. We're going to redeem this world. How are you going to do it? We're going to bleed, suffer, and die. And Peter exploded and said, what? That makes no sense at all. If you want to win the world, you get your machine guns, you march down to Rome, you kick Caesar off the throne, slap him upside the head, blow his brains out, and bring that throne back here to Jerusalem, and set up a throne, and set up 6 more, and we'll all rule the world, woo, and do magic tricks and free food, and wow, it'll be great. We'll win the world. No, we're going to win the world, but bleed, suffer, and die. I'm going to hang on a cross, be like a criminal. People are going to make fun of me. What? That doesn't make any sense. And then Jesus said, in fact, let me tell you that what I'm going to do, oh, that's what you're going to do too. And he said this. Listen to this verse. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it. And whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Does that make any sense in a world logic? Well, no. See, if you seek to save your life, you're lost. If you will lose your life for his sake, he will be found. That makes no sense. See, in the world logic, if you want to save your life, save it. Go for it. Gusto. Kick, scream, guard, protect, step on them. Use them. Compromise. Go. Get. Grab. That's the way you win. Jesus says divine logic. Lose. Give up. Throw your life away. Die to yourself. This won't sell. I know. We're on the football field. We're in the huddle. And we say to each other, let's let the other team win. That isn't going to sell. What are we going to say? Kick them, step on them, smash them, destroy them. That sells. World logic, divine logic. That went over so well, I'll give you another one. Jesus said, whoever desires to be first among you, let him be your slave. That didn't make any sense. If you want to be number one, what do? You push, you scrape, you cut the line, you get for yourself, you become important. Hey, who's the famous people? They're the ones that everybody applauds, wow, just to be, hey. So the more people that come under your influence and want to serve you, the bigger you are. Jesus said, no, the more people you serve, the bigger you are. Who's the important person at church? The pastor. Don't forget it. The pastor. Why? I have my own parking spot. Right up by the door. You park out there. Jesus says, no, Manley, park out there. That makes no sense in world logic. But divine logic, wow, makes a lot of sense. Let me give you another one. So the last will be first. The first will be last. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I know, world logic. If you're last, you're last. You're not first. No, Jesus says, when you're last, you're first. Divine logic. Amazing, isn't it? Now bring that into our verse. There is a divine logic going on in relationship to the secret place. And I apologize to the class on Friday, those who are part of the class on Friday, because we talked about this already. But Martin Luther had this phenomenal concept. Oh, this is awesome. This phenomenal concept. And it was the concept of the hidden Lord. Divine logic. Hidden Lord. And here was his idea. God reveals himself. Oh, amen. I'm for that. I want God to reveal himself. In fact, what I want for this very moment, right where we are this very second, in the next half hour, I would like God just to show up in the wonder of his presence and just become so visible that you could just, whoa. I want him to reveal himself. How does God reveal himself? Martin Luther said, God reveals himself by concealing himself. Isn't that stupid? If you want to reveal yourself, reveal yourself. No, hide. And in hiding, you make yourself known. That's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. For instance, you come to me and say, I'd just really like to see God. I want to see God. You just Manley, you just show me the person of God. I grab you by the hand. I take you out to a hill called Golgotha. And there on the hill are 3 crosses. And I say, you see the 2 on the outside? Yeah. The guy in the middle. You mean that beaten, yeah, the guy in the middle. You mean the one with the beard? Yeah, the beard yanked out. That's the guy. The money, his eyes are swollen. You can hardly recognize who. That's the guy. The guy who has his hair filled with blood. That's the guy. The guy who has the crown of thorns. Yeah, that's the guy. The guy who's stripped naked and everybody's making fun of. That's the guy. That guy right there in the middle cross. You want to see God? There he is. That's ridiculous. That can't be God. God's powerful. God does miracles. You don't push God around. So has God taken himself and concealed, hidden himself in a rugged cross, in bleeding, suffering, and dying? Has he hid himself there? And when you, by faith, embrace that cross and say, oh, you died for me, a revelation of who God is comes to your life that just turns you upside down, brother. Just whoa, and you know and see and understand God like you've never, ever known or seen him before, because he hid himself. Which one of you gets up in the morning and says, oh, I hope I have all kinds of physical pain in my body. I hope my legs hurt. I hope my head hurts. I hope my chest aches. I hope I have a heart attack. I hope I get cancer today. I hope. Well, are you at Divine World Logic? Are you crazy? But see, when you understand that God hides himself, secret place, hides himself in the suffering of your life. And that when you by faith march into the suffering of your life and you embrace it in the fullness of trusting him, somehow in the suffering and pain of your life, you experience him and know him like you never could any other way. And when you come out of that, you say, wow, I don't want to ever go through that again. But you couldn't buy it from me, because it's changed my life. See, which one of you gets up in the morning and says, oh, I hope everything goes wrong today. I hope I go to my car and all 4 tires are flat. I hope the thing won't crank. I hope the boss is having a real bad day and he's meaner than a snake today. I hope I mash my thumb 5 times. I hope. Well, nobody in his right mind would say that. World logic. Divine logic says that God has hidden himself in the struggles of my life. And when I, by faith, march into those struggles, the dark moments, when I can't see, and I march into those moments saying, I'm trusting you, Jesus, in this dark moment, lo and behold, he gives a revelation of himself, and you come out of those moments knowing him like you never could any other way. Because it's a secret place. A secret place. A secret place. See, we all here believe in the second coming. We all believe in that. Jesus is coming. Ooh. Going to split the sky wide open. Yeah. I think he's going to be 90 feet tall. I don't know. Probably not. But hey, it's really going to be great. And he's going to set things right. Whew. And when he shows up, right there, man, the physical Jesus returned. How you going to act? Well, man, I'm going to bow at his feet and say, oh, I'm so glad you're here. I've got all these problems. I'm giving them to you. You're here now. You can handle them. Hey, my finances, you can handle them. Hey, take care of my finances, Lord. I give it all to you. I'm not worried about money anymore. Hey, you're here. You can handle it. Oh, and my wife. Hey, and my kids. Oh, you can handle all that, God. All my relationships. All that are. I give it all to you. And I'm going to just trust him for everything. And why? He's right there. We're in. Come on. Think. He is here now, just like he'll be here then. Well, isn't he coming back? Not in the sense that he isn't here. He never left. See, then I'll see him. Right there he is. Wow. Got the wart on your toe. Whew, how about that? And I won't need faith. Now, I can't see him. Now, I can't prove it. Now, I can't put it in a test tube and boil it out. Now, I can't argue you into it. But ladies and gentlemen, I know that he is here now just as sure as he'll be here then. So I'm going to act now just like I'm going to act then. Because somehow, in the embrace of his person, the secret place, the hidden. It's hidden now. Then everybody will see, every knee will bow, but it's hidden now. And I'm embracing him now, just like I'm going to embrace him then. And I'm surrendering him to him now, just like I'm going to surrender then. And I'm giving my life to him now, just like I'm going to give my life to him then. And we're together in the secret place. Now, I want to talk to you about the secret place. That was the introduction. Here's the secret place. Look at verse 6. When you pray, go into your room, shut your door, pray to the Father who is in, get it, in the secret place. Number one, concentrated, in. He's in, the Father is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in the secret place. He's really strong on that in idea. He uses it every single time. In the charitable deeds, in the fasting thing, now in the prayer. Every time, that's 6 times, he talks about the secret place. He talks about in this place. Now you know that the from is a motion term. He came from that room into this, from. He changed locations. You know that into is a motion term. Changed locations. He went into the room, meaning he was here, now he's there. But in is no motion. In the Greek, it's a fixed thing. So what's he talking about? He's not coming into the secret place. He's not, if you'll get on your knees and cry for a half hour, I'll show up. He's not talking that. That there is a dwelling place, ladies and gentlemen, where God has concentrated, fixed himself. Now, theologically, we can argue God is omnipresent. I got that. You're right. He's everywhere at one time. I know. So if you go down to the bar, he's there. If you go over to the dump, he's there. I spend a lot of time there. That's why I brought that up. He's there. Everywhere you go, God is. I know that. But this is different. This is not the general presence of God. This is the specific presence of God, locked in, would it be fair to say, concentrated form, where God has somehow brought the whole focus of his personhood. It's the whole focus of his personhood brought to this one single spot that he calls secret place. It's what we had in the Old Testament. You know the Old Testament thing? Hey, we built the temple, and we all stood back while the cloud of the glory of God came down and locked himself into the Holy of Holies. Oh, there he is. It's the concentrated. Only this is not in a church. This is in the mystical idea, the hidden spot, the merger thing. This is that God has somehow brought himself, his whole specific thought process, desires, love, heartbeat, brought into one single spot called the secret place, which is the place where you and he merge in oneness. So this is not, I came to church, whoa, his presence was there today. And that's true. But that's not this. This is not, I was singing and worshiping, I got tingles up and down my spine, and I just felt, that's good. I get that too. Praise God for that. But that's not this. See, this is the mind and the heart of God brought into a focused, concentrated, not watered down. So how do you describe this? We've been, of course, talking a lot about the imagery thing. And the scriptures use all of these imageries. I'm the bride. He's the bridegroom. Well, that's not true. I mean, it is true. It's imagery. See, I'm not really a bride. My masculinity won't allow that. So I'm not a bride. But I'm the bride. It's imagery of the wedding night and the intimacy that's happening between two people as they are cuddled together in the bed, sharing pillow talk. He says, I'm trying to describe to you a God who's so in love with you, who so overwhelmingly desires you that he has literally brought himself into a concentrated embrace of your life. And you're to live there in that embrace. Man, wouldn't that be something? It's the 4-year-old who stumbled and fell and bruised his leg, and his dad comes and picks him up and just embraces him and squeezes him, and the son feels that's the secret place. God has come to your life, and he's literally picked you up and brought you into the embrace of his full person, and all he is in his heart and his mind is literally, and you can live there in that secret place. Wow. That's the deal. See, all of this is imagery. I'm not a 4-year-old, so it's imagery. See, I'm making all that up. Why? It's imagery. Trying to describe to you this secret place, this together. See, I'm pregnant. I'm not. I'm pregnant. I got this babe in my womb. And the babe experiences the heartbeat of the mother and the flow of the blood of the mother and eats what the mother eats. And the nutrition of the mother is the nutrition of the baby. And the thoughts of the mother are intertwined into the thoughts of the baby. And it's a secret, hidden place where I've literally been sucked into the womb of God. And somehow I'm so surrounded by him that his mind and my mind, his heart and my heart, what he wants and what I want is so intertwined. It's so, it's concentrated. Do you have that? Are you still struggling on your own? Why? When God has designed for you a concentrated, hidden, secret place of his presence. So he says, your Father who is in. Now go on with the statement. And this blew my mind as you look at the statement again in verse 6. He says, and your Father who's in the secret place. Now remember, he's talking about prayer. He says, when you pray, go into your room, shut your door, pray to your Father who's in the secret place, and your Father who sees. What? Why didn't he say your Father who hears? Because this is about prayer, folks. So he should be listening to me. And I got a lot to say. He doesn't say hear. He says sees, your Father who sees. Now it's interesting, he did the same thing in the charitable deeds in verse 4. That your charitable deed may be done in secret, and your Father who sees in secret. And in charitable deeds, I understand that because it's a physical act of giving someone a generous gift. And the Father who's in the secret place sees that. So what's he saying in the generosity, in the charitable deeds? He's saying, there's this secret place where you and Jesus have gotten together. Hey, it's concentrated. You're in. You're right there. And in that merger, you and God together, his heart and your heart, your charitable deeds all spill out of that, and God sees that. I get that. He sees that. And the fasting thing, I get that. Because he says the same thing. Your Father sees in secret. So when I fast, the Father sees that. Because it's something I do. But this prayer thing, he should be hearing it. But he's not. He's seeing it. It's the Greek word blippo. It's used 137 times in the New Testament. It's the opposite of blind. Your Father is not blind. What's he saying? Well, see, he brought up the hypocrite deal. See, when you do a charitable deed, don't be a hypocrite. What's he mean by that? Oh, we've talked about it. The hypocrite is a guy who appears to be giving, but he really gives because he wants to get the applause of men. So his intent is not to give. He only gives so he can receive. So he's a hypocrite because he appears one way when he's really another. The guy who prays, don't be a hypocrite. What's the hypocrite? He's the guy who prays like he's talking to God when he's not. He's talking to impress everybody around him. So he appears to be talking to God when he really is talking to everybody else, and he is a hypocrite. Now, what does that have to do with this? God, who lives in the secret place, sees. God, I'd like to have a brand new Dodge Ram 1500. Yes. Some Ford man is making fun of me. There's evil people in the world. See, I say that with my mouth. Oh, God hears it. Oh, yeah. Write that down. Manley wants a Dodge Ram. God doesn't hear that. He sees that. And he sees the intent of my heart. And he sees the scope of my living. He sees my finances. He sees the desires. He knows the selfishness of my being. He sees, folks. So what on earth am I trying to talk him into a Dodge Ram for? And if I just keep at it day after day after day, I can beat the living daylights out of God and get what I want. See, that's world logic. Divine logic is, oh, I fall at his feet and say, God, I'm open to you. We sang that old chorus. I'm open to you. You see. Do I need to tell you what I need? No. I can. He encourages me to. There's nothing wrong with that. But in the secret place, God has concentrated his presence in the secret place. The place of merger between you and him. I'm the vine, you're the branch. The place where the branch and the vine come together. Right there. The connecting element. Right there. Where the life sap of his being flows into me. It's imagery. Flows into me. Right there. That place. God is concentrated. He sees. And man, all I need to do is stay in the secret place and just open my life to him. And will he give me what I need? Will I find security there? Oh, yeah. You will. Because he sees. Wow. And on top of that, this is the third point, quick, conceived. Did you notice that every time he talks in these verses, he talks about the Father? Now, to the Jew, that was not a new concept. God is our Father, but God is our Father in terms of creation. Yeah. He's the Father like many people in the world have had a father. He wasn't around. I didn't know him. Yeah, I'm a product of his seed, but he didn't raise me. God was like that to the Jews. He was Father in the sense he's It's interesting. Jesus came and gave brand new content to the Father idea. And every time he uses the word Father, he puts the article the in front of it. So it's not just Father, a Father, it's the Father. Jesus says, the Father, and then he always uses the word your, which is the personalization of this whole thing. Oh. Do you understand that God has never, ever, in the Old Testament, ever lifted his little finger, done anything? No miracles, nothing. God never did anything in the Old Testament that the Scripture doesn't say it was specifically for you. If that could ever really dawn on you, that everything God went through in the creation, everything God went through in the fall, everything God went through Abraham, everything God went through in Moses, everything in the children of Israel and the wanderings, everything in all the prophets, all the deals through Christ dying, all the resurrections, everything God has ever done was all Jesus focusing, the Father focusing himself in on this concentrated in thing where he could see your open life before him and literally merge with you. And you could live in the embrace and the wonder of his. You know what that would bring? If this is all true, you know what that would bring? Ooh, that would bring security, folks. That would bring, you can't put ripples on my pond. Why? Because I don't live in your world. See, the world logic says, what are we going to do? Wear a mask. I'm scared. See, that world logic. Here's divine logic. Concentrated. Essence of his life. Focused. The whole focus of God's design and desire. Oh. And I step into that in openness before him. And he's my Father. It's imagery. He's not really my Father. Because there's no mother. I'm trying to describe to you something that can't be described. I'm trying to describe a relationship between you and God in a secret, hidden place that you just... How am I going to get you into this? How can I get you to move from where you are into this secret merger place that he calls prayer, where you live? How can I get you to live in the secret place where God is? I know what I'll do. I'll yell at you. Doesn't seem to be working. I'm arguing with you about... Yeah. But I do know this. If you listen to your insides, everything in your inner heart screams, oh, if what the preacher just said isn't true, it ought to be. Because if a person could live there, wow. Is God willing? Jesus. Oh, Jesus. We live in the logic of our world. We beat ourselves to death. Some of us live with overwhelming guilt. We've messed up our relationships. We live in hurt and pain. We get discouraged. We want to throw in the towel. But God, it all comes from the logic of a world. Is there a divine reasoning going on that opens a door to me where you have pulled me into not a physical location, I got that. Not a place at the altar, I got that. Not a prayer room, I got that. Not even the war closet, I got that. But you have pulled me into a concentrated spot where you have focused your presence, and you and I could get together in oneness, and I could know you. God, could I this morning, I'm talking about this boy right here, could I this morning, oh God, could I go from where I am to where you want me to be? Could you pull me up? Could the best of us to the worst of us, could we all just take a step? Could we just move in? Could we just come in an openness and a responsiveness? And could we set aside our stinking pride and what'll people say and all that kind of stuff, God, which is a world logic? Could I set aside all the stuff and, well, it won't work for me. Well, I've tried it before. All the stuff that God goes through in the world logic, could I set that aside and could I listen to your voice today? Heads are bowed, our altar's open for you and for me. I want to move into the bubble of his presence. I want to dwell in the spot of his concentrated focus. I want to be the 4-year-old who's picked up by a sovereign God, brought to the chest and the heart of the Father. I want to live in helplessness because I am. Would you like to come and kneel with me? And just openness before him. To say, whatever this means, whatever it changes in me, if it brings forgiveness, great. If it changes the way I think, fine. If it alters the way I act, okay. If you take some things from me and you bring other things to me, it's all okay. I want your heart. Live in the merger, the intimacy of your person. Be obedient to him.